All right, pouch people, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into a real snus mystery today.
Ooh, a mystery.
Yeah, a real head scratcher. We're talking about GN Tobacco,
GN Tobacco.
the folks behind Siberia, Odens, and White Fox.
Yep, some big names.
Brands,
Sure.
brands you might love, but something strange is happening.
Oh, really? What's that?
They just jacked up their prices.
Jacked up their prices.
Okay.
How much are we talking?
And we're not talking like a little nudge here.
Okay.
We're talking 20 to 300% on some products.
Whoa. Okay, that's a big jump.
What's going on?
Yeah, what's the deal?
They're being awfully quiet about it.
Yeah, that is strange. Usually when a company makes a change like this, they want to shout it from the rooftops.
Right. You'd think they'd want to get ahead of it,
Yeah.
explain themselves.
Exactly.
But GN Tobacco crickets.
So what do we know?
We've been playing detective,
Oh, fun.
digging through articles, distributor updates, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Trying to piece together the puzzle.
Proposal. And trust me, it's more complicated than just the usual inflation story.
More complicated than inflation. Okay, so what have you found?
Well, we know they've mentioned some things.
Like what?
Rising production costs some equipment upgrades, the upcoming Swedish tobacco tax and regulations in places like the UK and the US.
Yeah, those are all valid points, but...
But those things are always in flux, right?
Right.
Why this much of a price hike now?
Yeah, and why so hush-hush about the specifics?
Almost like they're trying to slip something past us.
It's certainly fueling a lot of speculation.
No kidding.
I mean, to be fair to their customers, a little more transparency would go a long way.
Absolutely. So for now, we have to work with what we've got.
Okay, what have we got?
Here's what we know for sure.
Okay.
The new prices went live on October 1st.
October 1st.
Got it.
And distributors like Snusline are scrambling to explain things to, shall we say, less than thrilled customers.
I bet.
So how are they handling it?
Well, to their credit, Snusline is trying to soften the blow.
Okay, good for them.
They're rolling out the increases in stages.
Yeah.
Take Siberia Red, White, Dry. Extremely strong, for example.
That beast of a snus.
That price is going up in 2 phases, one now and another in early December.
So you've got a little time to stock up.
If you're hardcore about that particular flavor,
Yeah.
they're also holding off on price bumps for some of their less popular items until November.
Maybe hoping things will magically settle down by then.
Who knows?
Maybe. But here's where things get interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Remember we talked about competition?
Yeah.
Well, Snusline themselves are already pointing people towards alternatives.
Really? Alternatives to GN Tobacco?
Yep. Specifically, they're highlighting Off-Road X-White Dry as a potential Siberia Red substitute.
Off-road. So what's the deal with off-road? Is it any good?
Oh,
Because let's be real, Siberia fans are a dedicated bunch.
Yeah, they are.
Switching brands is like asking them to betray a family member.
True. That's a tough sell.
So tell me more about this off-road.
Well, Off-Road X-White Dry is sitting pretty at 3.39 euros right now.
Yeah.
So a good chunk cheaper.
Okay, that's promising.
And strength-wise, it's right up there with Siberia Red, a hefty 45 milligrams of nicotine per gram.
Wow. Okay, they're not messing around.
Nope. And they describe it as having a fresh menthol flavor, so...
Menthol. I can already hear the diehards scoffing.
Yeah, you might be right.
But hey, maybe desperation will make people a little more adventurous.
Maybe. Especially if their wallets are feeling lighter.
Exactly. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Will brand loyalty win the day? Or will this shakeup force people to branch out?
Ooh, and what does this mean for the bigger players like Swedish Match or British American Tobacco?
Yeah, good point.
Are they just watching this unfold, or are they getting ready to pounce?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And what about the health and regulatory side of things? Does this price hike change anything there?
We should explore that.
This is getting juicy. We're going to unravel all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
Definitely. We've got a lot more to discuss.
But first, we want to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you noticed these price changes?
Are you considering jumping ship to another brand?
Let us know what you're thinking.
This is a real turning point for the snus world, and your experiences are part of the story.
So stick around. We'll be right back with more snus intrigue in just a moment.
All right, snus sleuths, welcome back. We've laid out the mystery GN Tobacco's price hike, their radio silence.
And the scramble for alternatives.
Right. But now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Okay, the bigger picture.
What does this mean for the whole snus and nicotine pouch landscape?
The whole landscape.
Could this be the start of a real shakeup?
I think it has the potential to be. We're talking about a fundamental shift.
A fundamental shift.
Yeah, in the economics of these products.
Okay, how so?
Well, for years, price has been a big part of the appeal.
Of Snus and pouches?
Right. Especially compared to cigarettes.
Yeah, that price difference has always been a big selling point.
Exactly. But if that gap starts to shrink...
If that gap starts to shrink...
Well, that changes the game, doesn't it?
It definitely changes things, for sure.
Yeah.
Some hardcore Siberia fans might keep riding that train no matter what.
Oh, yeah, the diehards?
But for others, especially those who are price sensitive, this could be a breaking point.
A breaking point.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Go on.
Imagine you're a daily Snus user. You've got your routine, your favorite flavor.
Okay, I'm with you.
Suddenly that routine costs you 3 times as much.
Ouch.
Are you gonna just shrug and pay up?
I don't know. Some people might.
Or are you gonna start thinking, hey, maybe it's time to try something new?
Right. That's the question, isn't it?
And that's where those competitors come in, right?
Competitors?
We were talking about Swedish match British-American tobacco.
Yeah.
They must be watching this whole thing unfold with dollar signs in their eyes.
Absolutely. This is their chance to swoop in and grab market share.
So how do you think they'll play it?
Well, they could undercut GN Tobacco on price,
Makes sense.
offer tempting deals, maybe even launch new products.
New products.
Ooh. Specifically targeted at disgruntled GN users. So a whole new wave of snus and pouch options hitting the market.
It's possible.
That could actually be a good thing for consumers, right?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Competition often leads to innovation.
Innovation.
Yeah. We might see companies getting more creative with flavors formats.
Even the nicotine delivery mechanisms themselves.
Exactly. Maybe we'll see a rise in all-natural snus.
All natural in this.
Or pouches with even lower nicotine levels.
Ooh, that's an interesting thought. Sort of a healthier snus trend.
It's a possibility.
I wonder if that's something consumers would actually go for. I mean, isn't the whole point of snus to get that strong nicotine hit?
That's the traditional view, sure. But remember, the landscape is changing.
The landscape is changing.
People are becoming more health conscious,
More health conscious.
even within the snus community.
Okay, that's true. And let's not forget about the regulatory aspect.
Oh, right, the government.
What do you think they're making of this whole GN tobacco situation?
Well, I suspect they're watching it very closely.
Very closely.
This price hike could have some unforeseen consequences.
Unforeseen consequences. Like what?
Well, positive and negative.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, on the one hand, that might push some people towards less harmful alternatives,
Okay.
or even towards quitting nicotine altogether.
That's the best case scenario, right?
Definitely.
Less harmful alternatives or quitting altogether.
But there's also the flip side.
The flip side.
Remember we talked about cigarettes?
Uh-oh.
If the price gap gets small enough,
Yeah.
some people might be tempted to go back to smoking,
Ugh. That's a scary thought.
which would be a huge step backward from a public health perspective.
Absolutely. So what can be done? I mean, besides hoping people make smart choices, is there a role for governments and regulators to play here?
Absolutely. Governments have a vested interest in protecting public health.
Okay.
They could consider adjusting taxation policies
Taxation policies.
to discourage people from switching back to cigarettes.
Okay, so like higher taxes on cigarettes.
Maybe. Or even introduce new taxes on certain snus products.
To offset the price difference?
Right. On the flip side, they could also consider lowering taxes on harm reduction products.
Like nicotine pouches.
Exactly, to make them more appealing and accessible.
To those looking for alternatives.
It's all about finding that balance between individual choice and public health.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, what about the whole flavor ban debate? We touched on that earlier. How do you see this price hike affecting that conversation?
Well, with potential profit losses, looming manufacturers might be even more tempted to lean on flavored products.
To maintain their market share.
Right. Especially those juicy flavors that tend to appeal to younger audiences.
Right, those tempting mango and berry blasts.
Exactly. And this could further fuel the arguments for stricter flavor regulations.
Because regulators are already concerned about the appeal of those flavors to minors.
Exactly. And this price hike could give them even more ammunition to push for bans. It's a delicate dance between commercial interests and public health concerns.
So what's the bottom line here? What's your prediction for the future of snus and nicotine pouches in light of this GN tobacco shakeup?
Honestly, it's too early to say for sure. We're in uncharted territory. But one thing is certain, this price hike has thrown a wrench into the gears, and the industry is going to have to adapt.
Adapt.
We might see a wave of innovation, new products, new strategies, all driven by this need to stay competitive and relevant.
It's like a whole new game is beginning.
Exactly. And as always, the most important players in this game are the consumers.
The consumer.
Your choices, your preferences, your reactions to these changes, they will ultimately shape the future of the snus and nicotine pouch landscape.
Well said. So to all you Snus aficionados out there, we want to hear from you. Have you noticed the price changes? Are you considering switching brands? Or are you sticking with your tried and true favorites? Share your thoughts and experiences because your voice matters in this evolving story.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning.
Welcome back, Snus enthusiasts. We've explored the GN tobacco price hike, the whispers of market upheaval, the potential for new players to emerge. But now, it's time to tackle the big question.
The big question.
What does this all mean in the long run? Could this be a turning point for the entire snus and nicotine pouch industry?
It's certainly possible. I mean, we've already talked about how this price hike could push some users towards less harmful alternatives or even quitting altogether.
Right, less harmful alternatives quitting altogether.
But let's dive deeper into the potential health and regulatory ramifications of this shift.
Okay, let's get serious for a moment. What are the real health concerns here? I mean, we all know snus isn't exactly a health food, but how does this price change factor into the equation?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for people to switch back to cigarettes.
Back to cigarettes.
Yeah. If the price difference between snus and cigarettes becomes negligible,
Negligible.
some users, especially those who prioritize affordability, might be tempted to revert to a more harmful habit. And that's a worrying thought.
Absolutely. We've come a long way in promoting snus as a less harmful alternative to smoking, and a reversal of that trend would be a major setback.
Precisely. And it's not just about individual health choices. A surge in cigarette use could lead to increased healthcare costs and put a strain on public health systems. It's a ripple effect that we need to be mindful of.
So what can be done? I mean, besides hoping people make smart choices, is there a role for governments and regulators to play here?
Absolutely. Governments have a vested interest in protecting public health.
Okay.
They could consider adjusting taxation policies to discourage people from switching back to cigarettes. Maybe increase taxes on cigarettes, or even introduce new taxes on certain snus products to offset the price difference.
Interesting. So using taxes as a way to nudge people towards less harmful options.
Exactly. On the flip side, they could also consider lowering taxes on harm reduction products like nicotine pouches to make them more appealing and accessible to those looking for alternatives. It's all about finding that balance between individual choice and public health.
Makes sense. Now, what about the whole flavor ban debate? We touched on that earlier. How do you see this price hike affecting that conversation?
Well, with potential profit losses, looming manufacturers might be even more tempted to lean on flavored products to maintain their market share.
To maintain market share.
Especially those juicy flavors that tend to appeal to younger audiences, a demographic they'd love to capture.
Right. Those tempting mango and berry blasts.
Exactly. And this could further fuel the arguments for stricter flavor regulations. Regulators are already concerned about the appeal of these flavors to minors, and this price hike could give them even more ammunition to push for bans. It's a delicate dance between commercial interests and public health concerns.
So what's the bottom line here? What's your prediction for the future of snus and nicotine pouches in light of this GN tobacco shakeup?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's too early to say for sure. We're in uncharted territory. But one thing is certain. This price hike has thrown a wrench into the gears, and the industry is going to have to adapt. We might see a waves of innovation, new products, new strategies, all driven by this need to stay competitive and relevant.
It's like a whole new game is beginning.
Exactly. And as always, the most important players in this game are the consumers. Your choices, your preferences, your reactions to these changes, they will ultimately shape the future of the snus and nicotine pouch landscape.
Well said. So to all you snus aficionados out there, we want to hear from you. Have you noticed the price changes? Are you considering switching brands? Or are you sticking with your tried and true favorites? Share your thoughts and experiences because your voice matters in this evolving story. Keep those pouches pinched, stay informed, and remember the world of snus is changing and we're all along for the ride.